As a high school security, how do you feel about the fact that 24% of people under the age of 18 uses crystal meth? What are your thoughts and feeling about this?
My thoughts is disgusting. It doesn't matter what you do, it still shows up. So what they need is need more positive people, and they need encouragement, need role models, and it's just the stuff that you folks do here. I think it will be a plus. If we get more supporters, maybe we can get rid of it, but we can probably decrease it, maybe even make it better. More students that we can get focused towards college, or even better themselves. I think we'll a success.
As a teacher, if a student has an addiction problem, then where can you go to receive help?
So if a student has an addiction problem to crystal meth, I would recommend, well, the first step is that they recognize that they have an addiction problem. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with recognizing that you have a problem, because that's a great way to seek help. So I would personally recommend that they go and see their counselor or an adult on campus that they trust, because it is a very sensitive topic. Counselors are trained to deal with these kinds of issues, and they do have brochures and information on how to deal with problems such as these, among a host of many others. So don't be afraid to get help, and everything that you mentioned to us will be kept confidential as you wish. So that's my recommendation.
As an FBI agent, what are some things you can tell us about meth?
Some things I can tell you about meth. Well, I've got like a little bit of unique experience with meth. I actually had a role once where I was a undercover drug mule and drug dealer. So I would pick up pounds of methamphetamine, valued in excess of probably, when I ended up trying to sell it, it was about $250,000 worth of methamphetamine. And I would travel, pick up meth here in Hawaii, and then I'd travel elsewhere. And when I was a mule here, I was like a lowly mule picking it up. And back in those days, what I'd do is I'd have to body carry it. So what I'd end up doing is like stuffing it down my pants. And then I'd jump on board a plane and try and pass security, much like a drug mule would, so that the other drug dealers that I was traveling with wouldn't think that I was stealing their drugs and that I was a legit crumb. And then when I'd land someplace else, my persona would change, and I'd be a big-time high roller. And I'd get picked up in fancy cars. I'd have a whole bunch of other undercovers with me that would be like my boys, my entourage. And then I'd go to different clubs and then try to make drug deals and try and sell. And then when folks would show up to pick up the drugs that I was brokering the sale for, we'd arrest all these guys. So say I'd show up in the club and I'd say like, yeah, come pick up the dope at 9 o'clock, come pick up the dope at 10, come pick up the dope at 11. But at 9 o'clock they show up, I arrest that guy. And then at 10 o'clock I arrest the next guy, 11 I arrest that guy. And we kept doing that until we ran out of cell space. But that experience kind of taught me something rather unique, was that the demand for this drug was incredibly high. And one of the things that you got to be really aware of when you face methamphetamine is how incredibly addictive it is. A lot of folks don't realize that methamphetamine is actually a really old drug. Crystal meth is an old drug. The Japanese during World War II were actually manufacturing it and using that drug to power their factories and to keep their soldiers and fighter pilots all pumped up during the war, which actually made it really difficult for U.S. armed forces to actually engage in combat with these folks, because these guys were all high, right? The drug was so powerful that the drug eventually then got shared with the Germans and the Axis forces in Europe during World War II, and that drug was being used to allow the Nazis to kind of keep their factories up and running. So the United States and our ally powers were actually fighting these other countries that were actually all hyped up on this drug. Eventually, as the years went by, other drugs that were cheaper kind of came into play, like weed and marijuana, cocaine in the 1970s was hot, heroin and LSD, and a lot of experimentation with those drugs. But crystal methamphetamine has always kind of been a very low-end drug that a lot of folks would still end up using. And the thing that made it really powerful was its incredibly strong addictive nature. there was a gentleman that was in my high school class. We actually went to the prom, not as friends, but we sat at the same prom table together. But we knew each other all through high school over 4 years. Eventually, when I became an FBI agent, I arrested this guy for a bunch of different crimes he had committed in Waikiki. But when I arrested him, I didn't even recognize him because the drug had literally changed its face. It had eroded all his teeth. He didn't have any teeth. His skin was all patchy and peely. And he was like, "Brah, you don't remember me? It's your friend Gordon, brah." And I was like, I didn't recognize him at all. And the incredible life-changing effect that this has on your body, as well as on your mindset, because it's incredibly addictive, is what makes it really dangerous. The moment one person takes a hit, there's numerous cases, thousands, if not maybe even almost 1 million cases, where someone takes just one hit of this drug and that's it, they're totally addicted to it. And part of what makes it really dangerous is that it actually affects the way your mind receives pain and pleasure systems. The system, the dopamine that allows you to feel excitement and happiness, like at Christmas or at going to this idea of winning a lottery or winning a sweepstakes or finding out you just want a car, that crazy excitement gets dulled when you take this drug. And the only way that you can feel that sense of normalcy is by actually taking more and more of this drug. And so you take more and more, not realizing, of course, that really what you're doing is you're poisoning yourself. And unfortunately, people just wither away because of it. It destroys families, it destroys lives. So it's a bad drug.
So, how can we decrease or prevent people from using drugs like meth?
I would say to prevent people from, I would say the most important thing is education around the harmful things that meth would do to a person. That would probably be the best thing starting off. And then a lot of drug use from what we've seen is from anxiety, and people are trying to avoid that discomfort, so they're looking for an outlet to forget about that. So they might use meth, they might use a different drug, alcohol, they're just looking for a way to forget about that pain and that discomfort. So I think looking at their mental health is a very, very important aspect, and understanding why they're thinking the way they do, why they're operating the way they do, and also